Hello, everybody. Hello, Mom. Hello, Rosie. Hey, Melanie. Hope you guys are all doing well. Hello from work. I hope you are feeling up to working, Melanie. Hopefully, the prayer and positive vibes and everything is strengthening you and helping you with your fighting all of the junk. Hanging in there. Yeah, I started the live off outside because I don't want any interruptions tonight. Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate those roses. So I've got a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm really excited. Tonight is a big night for any of you guys who have not paid attention or have not caught TikTok exploding or the general internet talking about the 12/12 portal, the new moon in Sagittarius, the geometric alignments that are happening, big portals of manifestation opening up. Super important time tonight to set intentions for the future and manifest the future that we are seeking. So definitely want to talk a lot about that tonight. Awesome. Thank you, Rosie. So I'm really excited to get going and talking about that. I'm sure you guys have probably heard everybody talk about this. If you have been on the internet in the last couple of days, I have no doubt that you've seen videos of people talking about this portal because it is a big deal. It does happen every year on December 12th, but this one is especially potent because it is in alignment with the new moon in Sagittarius at a very pivotal time. And during this portal, sounds great. Yes, exactly. Great indeed. Not I. Well, not to worry. I plan on talking extensively about that. But for those of you who are or not used to seeing my face, if this is the first time stumbling across me, and you happen to like anything that you are hearing, please consider showing me some love, tapping on that screen, maybe giving me a follow, or sharing the live feed to somebody that you know who might benefit from this. And consider sticking around and becoming a member of our soul group. That is a community we've started for anyone interested in spirituality, and it is a very fantastic community. You're freezing now and then. Hopefully that does not continue. For any of you guys that does happen, if you leave, hopefully that does not continue. For any of you guys that does happen, if you leave and then try to rejoin, it should clear that up a little bit. We have about 170 people in here watching right now, which is awesome, but that might slow the live feed on my end a little bit. So I want to talk about the portal tonight for manifestation. Again, this is not something that's never happened before, right? There are several portals. The 12/12 portal happens every December 12th. However, this one is incredibly potent because it is in alignment, exact alignment with the new moon in Sagittarius, which is a very potent new moon. The very fiery sign of Sagittarius, which is trying to get us to aim high, not just to focus on our manifestations and decide the kind of future that we want, but aim high with those manifestations. Frozen bad for me, even after leaving. Sorry about that, guys. Hopefully that does not continue. If it does, let me know. And I'll see what I can do. I might go see if I can find a better spot with a little bit better service. Hello, Stephanie. Long time no see. So, this portal is especially important. Tonight is especially important. The next few days as well. Although tonight and tomorrow the energy will be at its highest. Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate the heart. It is always important to set our intentions, right? And the reason for this can be really easy to understand with a very simple analogy. An analogy that I really like to use to really grasp the importance of setting our intentions and trying to manifest the future that we want, as opposed to operating on autopilot, our normal default setting, which is what most of us do, myself included, right? I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm just speaking the obvious. Imagine that you woke up one day with amnesia, even. Let's just say you woke up with amnesia, and you're on a sailing ship, and you notice that, like, the sailing ship is, out at sea, kind of being tossed around a bit as the wind picks up, and the waves come in choppy. The deckhands, they jump to attention and start, you know, rushing about with activity and adjusting the sails and the lines and all this and that. And the person who is steering the ship and setting the course, you assume is the captain, right? You don't really know what's going on. After some time, you start piecing things together, and you decide, you don't really like going through these choppy waters all the time. It seems like it's always in a storm, right? The wind's always howling, the waves are always crashing, the boat's always rocking, everyone's always running to and fro and adjusting the sails. But you just want to see some calmer seas, maybe. Maybe you'd like to find an island somewhere to drop your anchor and maybe go on shore and explore around a little bit and have an adventure. Sorry it's freezing up for you guys. It's the portal. Very possibly. I hope you guys can still hear this. I will be recording this and downloading it later for anybody who does not get to hear all of this. So, you decide that you don't want to stay in these rough waters anymore, right? And so you go and talk to the captain one day who is steering the ship, and then you discover that's not the captain at all, that maybe that's the first mate. And it turns out that you are the captain of the ship. You've just woke up with amnesia and you had no idea. See, that analogy works because that is what a spiritual awakening is. We are born into this world without a user's manual, with amnesia. We have no idea how the world truly operates. It takes us some time to figure these things out, right? It takes us some time to even realize that we are the captain, not our egos. The ego is our first mate, right? There to serve us and help us to learn lessons and navigate the seas of life. But the ego is not who we are. We are the captain. We are the ones truly in charge. But just like in this analogy, if you don't set a destination and chart a path from where you're at to where you're trying to get, you will just be tossed about in the seas endlessly, wherever life feels like taking you, right? Thank you, Honeybee, for sharing the live. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for all your support. Thank you, Rosie. That's how default looks like for us as manifestors, and we are all manifestors. We're doing that right now. If we don't declare precisely to the universe what we want and where we want to go in life, we are just on reaction mode, tossed about in the seas of life. How can you ever get to where you want to be if you don't know where you want to go, right? You might eventually on this sailing ship bump into an island at some point, but it might not be the island you want. It might not be an island paradise. It might be a deserted volcanic island or one with cannibals or something on it, right? I'm just dragging a little. It's okay because we're not actually missing any words. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know that, Rosie. And I do apologize for the lagging feed, guys. That analogy works very well for our life, and it is absolutely paramount. And it's something that I've only recently realized that I have done basically my entire life. I think I know what I want, right? But the problem is, it's I want this or I want that, but it's never sustained with any energy. It's never set. It's never agreed upon or set in stone. Like if you're the captain on the ship, right? You're not just like you wake up one day and well, I'd kind of like to be somewhere a little nicer, and then hope to get somewhere nicer. That's not the way it works. If you're the captain on the ship, you say, okay, this right here is precisely where we're at. I would like to go to this location, this island right here at these coordinates, and then you chart a path. What steps are needed to get from where you're at to where you're going, right? And all of those deckhands that react to the environment on the seas, those are your emotions, which are energy in motion. Once the captain actually takes charge and takes control of the ship, then the emotions begin to work for the captain. They begin to react to the outside environment and steer the ship in the direction of the charted path. That part is absolutely necessary. Oh, thank you for that, Roy. I really appreciate that. There is new moon. Now is the time. Now is the time to chart your destination, to set that destination in stone, declare it concretely to the universe as clearly and precisely as you can, and then start figuring out the steps to get from where you're at to where you need to go. Now you can't hear me at all. Good grief. Hey, you look familiar. Where are you from? I am from the Ozarks, extreme southern Missouri. That's how I felt my whole life, tossed to and fro at 63, just realizing it's okay to put myself first. Are you my Brian from years ago? I'm not exactly sure who I'm speaking to, my friend. My name is Brian, though. Okay, you guys can hear me. Awesome. All right, so I want to start with these examples. No, sorry, my friend. Different Brian, I'm afraid. I'm having massive problems with the phone. Sorry about all of the electrical difficulties tonight, guys. Missouri, southern Missouri Quasar. That's where I'm from. I'm actually living right now in northern Arkansas. So, the first story, the first example I want to share with you guys. Keeler. No, I'm afraid not. Sorry, it's nice to meet you, though, either way. So, the first example I want to share with you guys, pretty much everybody has heard of Jim Carrey, right? And you probably have all heard the story of how Jim Carrey became famous. But I want to share the story anyway. Before any of us knew who Jim Carrey was, he was a stand-up comedian. He had no name, right? And he had, from a very early age, knew what he wanted, knew that he wanted to be an actor and everything. But of course, everyone told him, that's not going to happen. Nobody really ever makes it unless you know somebody or whatever. But he didn't want to give up on his dream. So he went into being a stand-up comedian. He had some success, not like tremendous success or anything like that, but he was making enough to earn a living. And he decided to set the intention, just like we're talking like that, but he was making enough to earn a living. And he decided to set the intention, just like we're talking about, that he wanted to become not just a paid actor, but he wanted to be a huge actor in Hollywood, right? And he actually took it a step further, and he hand wrote a check to himself for $26 million, and then wrote on the bottom of this check for acting services rendered. And then he kept this check in his wallet and carried it around with him everywhere that he went. And he would kept this check in his wallet and carried it around with him everywhere that he went. And he would pull it out and look at this check and visualize himself getting this $26 million for acting, for being, this huge Hollywood actor. And of course, we all know what really happened, right? I can't remember exactly how much time elapsed after he'd done this manifestation with the check. But he made $26 million for, was it The Mask, if I remember right? Or it might have been Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. But either way, he made 3 really big movies within a couple of years, and his life has never been the same since then. And he has given several interviews talking about this very specific experience that happened. How prior to that, he had no name. Nobody knew who he was. He had some mild success here and there. But then he set his intention very powerfully and started working towards that. It was the belief, as you say, Rosie. Oh, sorry, Truth Tribe. Have you tried leaving the live and then coming back? Sometimes that helps. If you can't hear me, you probably don't know that I'm saying that to you. But anyway, so Jim Carrey went from an everyday stand-up comedian that was struggling to make ends meet to one of the highest paid actors of all time, using this manifestation technique, setting his intention, and most importantly, the belief, right? The belief is the most important factor in all of that equation, because you can set all of the intention that you want. You can even take all of the steps that you want to get towards that. But if you don't believe it's possible for you, if you don't believe all of the steps that you want to get towards that, but if you don't believe it's possible for you, I'm glad I'm back for you, Truth Tribe. So, I'm glad I'm back for you, Truth Tribe. So, you guys have heard me talk a lot about Christianity. And I know this is a big jump, right? I just went from talking manifestation and Jim Carrey to now Christianity. But there's a good reason for it. I personally believe that Yeshua, Jesus, taught how to use our mind as creators to create, the power of our mind. And many of these different examples or teachings throughout the New Testament are taken as purely parable or stories not to be taken literal, that they are symbolic of some higher spiritual meaning. I think that they were very literal and completely filled to the brim with profound spiritual insight. Isn't the feeling you get when you have it? Exactly. The higher-ups are trying to silence you. Good grief. Okay, guys, hang on one second. Let me get out in the open air a little bit and see if this helps with the live. Hang on, I'm going to disappear. I'm still here, though, I promise you. Sometimes if I'm out in the open air, away from everything, I get a little bit better service. So hopefully that will help you guys with the live. Yes, exactly. Yeshua said, "You will do greater things than I." Over and over again throughout the scripture, he talks about that. But there are several teachings that Jesus gave that specifically touches on the importance of the belief as the difference between not manifesting something and manifesting anything you want very powerfully. That's why he said, if you had but the faith of a mustard seed, you could say to that mountain, cast yourself into the sea, and it would be so. That is not speaking in parables, and it's not speaking metaphorically. Jesus, Yeshua, literally meant if you had enough faith, which there is a difference between belief and faith. But really, what is the difference? Faith is an expectation of something to happen, right? It is essentially the same as believing something is going to happen, but it is an active form of belief. That means you are expecting it. Not only do you believe it will be so, but you have an expectation of it to come to pass. To me, that's what faith means in this context. And just like whenever he's walking on water and his disciples are in the boat and he extends his hand and Peter steps out on the water, he had no doubt, right? And he's standing on water. And then he looks down and he sees, and he's like, oh gosh. And then he immediately begins to sink. But why? Because doubt entered his mind. And that is the exact polar opposite of faith. It is an expectation of failure, essentially. That's what doubt is. It is a manifestation. It's just working the exact opposite way. But both are the expectation of a result, and they are equally powerful. So, and there's many, many more examples of that all throughout the Bible, but they are all an expectation of a result. Yes, the frequency Gospel of Thomas. Is it a kind of poem to unlock? A positive expectancy. I love that. Let it be according to your faith. And you could continue going with that over and over and over again. And yet somehow mainstream Christianity completely misses every single bit of that. And I think it's really unfortunate. But anyway, I want to get back to the other examples and stories. I just wanted to pause there to highlight the importance, as you're trying to manifest something, of not only seeing it, but believing it is yours. Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate the clappers. So, one of my all-time favorite famous people, at least the story of how it happened, is Sylvester Stallone. And I know that some of you guys have already heard me talk about this story. I'm probably going to butcher it. So, if you find this interesting, please do yourself a favor and go on YouTube or whatever and search Sylvester Stallone's story. If you can find the interview where he tells the story himself, that is by far the most powerful version of it. But essentially the same thing here, right? Sylvester Stallone wanted to be an actor. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but you probably know who Sylvester Stallone is. Rocky, right? Whenever he was born, during his delivery, the doctor used forceps to pull him out. And it caused some damage, some nerve damage to his face. And so, his lips look kind of like, a little funny, and he sounds, he kind of talks like this, and which I'm not making fun of him. I love Sylvester Stallone. But he had a very difficult time landing any type of role at all. Because of that, he said that he would go to agency after agency trying for these roles, and every single one of them would be like, nobody's going to want to see you. You look all crazy, and you dug like this, and nobody's going to want to hear that. They want to see, all of these, normal looking people who sound like everybody else. You're wasting my time. Get out of here. And he would not stop. He would keep going and going and going. Sometimes over a dozen times to the same place. He would keep harassing these people. And yet he landed a major role. The way that this worked, it's so awesome. I can't even wait to finish the story. So he was not getting any roles whatsoever, none. And he was with a woman at the time. They were in a really cheap, crummy apartment, I believe in New York, somewhere on the East Coast, really expensive. And they were starving, like they could not afford food. And his girlfriend was like, "Look, I know this is your dream, and I love you, but you need to go get a job. It's time that you give up on this childish fantasy. That's what it is. It's a fantasy. This is the real world. You need to go get a job." And he said, "No, I'm an actor. I'm going to be an actor. This is what I do." And he kept trying and kept trying, and it got so bad that he could not afford food for him or his girlfriend anymore. So he snuck into her jewelry box and stole some of her jewelry and pawned it and used that to buy them some food. And then it got even worse. He went even longer without work. And he had a dog that was his best friend in the whole world. He loved this dog. This dog loved him unconditionally, no matter what. And he could not afford to feed the dog anymore. And he could not stomach watching his best friend in the entire world slowly starve. So, in a moment of complete despair and rock bottom, um, he took his dog outside of this pawn shop where he had pawned the jewelry, and he decided he was going to sell his dog, his best friend in the whole world, because even though as terrible as that was to him, he would much rather someone who could afford to take care of him have him, so the dog wouldn't starve to death. So eventually, he found some guy who was willing to buy this dog, I think for like $20. This guy bought his dog, right? And then he went home completely heartbroken because this was not his dog. This was his best friend in the entire world, right? And he refused to give up. That night, at the lowest of lows, like 10 feet past rock bottom at this point, right? His girlfriend left him. His best friend in the world was gone. He was flat broke. It's like the entire universe was saying, "Give up on your dreams. Give up on this," right? And something snapped inside of him, and he said, "I'm not giving up. I'm not doing it." And that night, he happened to be sitting down and watched a boxing movie, actually a boxing match, sorry. And it was Muhammad Ali and, oh, I can't remember who it was that he was fighting. But it was a really famous match, right? And he got this moment of inspiration, this divine spark inside of his mind, and he acted upon it. He frantically grabbed a spiral notebook and did not move for like 4 or 5 hours until he wrote out an entire script for a movie, and he knew that he had something, right? So he started pitching this movie script to a whole bunch of different producers and people making movies. And right off the bat, people were like, this is a really good script. We think this has a good chance of being successful. And one of them said, "I would like to offer you $250,000 for your script." And this is a guy who just lost his girlfriend, his best friend in the world, and is starving to death, right? $250,000. And he said, "Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. But there's just one thing. I'm Rocky." And they laughed at him. They laughed and then left. And so he went and talked to more people. And he was like, more places were like, "We'd like to buy your script. And he's like, cool, but I'm Rocky, and nobody would take him seriously. So a few weeks or a month or whatever passed, and the first movie producers came back and was like, look, we really like this script. We really like the idea of it. But you're not an actor. Nobody knows who you are. You got this goofy looking face. You sound kind of crazy. Nobody wants to hear that. No one's going to, go watch this movie with you as the star. You don't even have a name, right? But we really like the script. We'd like to offer you $500,000 for the script. And he said, that's great, but I'm Rocky. I'm going to be in it. Even at that lowest point, he still said, no, I am Rocky. This is me. And they left. And he turned down that opportunity, right? And finally, they came back a third time and said, look, let's try this. We believe in your script. We think it has a potential to be successful. But since you're not an actor and we don't know you, nobody knows you, if you want to star in this movie, you're going to have to be willing to have some skin in the game with us. So they said, we will give you $50,000 for your script, and you can star in it. But you won't really make any money unless the movie makes money. And so he said, okay, yeah, I'm going to take that. And then as soon as he sold the script and got the money, he went and tracked down this guy and told him everything that had happened. And he said, look, I really got to have my dog back. This is my best friend in the whole world. And the guy was like, no, I'm not selling you my dog. That's crazy. I'm not going to do that. And he told him, he's like, look, this is my best friend in the whole world. I just couldn't stand to watch him starve to death. Just name your price, whatever it is, I'll pay you for him. Mind you, he had received like $20 for this dog. I don't remember the exact figure, but I'm pretty sure the guy eventually agreed to sell him his dog back for like $25,000 and a role in the movie Rocky. And if you guys go back and watch the movie, watch Rocky, his dog is in that movie, his best friend in the whole world, and the guy who bought his dog and then sold it back to him. And he went on from that to become an international superstar because he did not give up on his dream. He knew exactly where he was headed. He knew his destination, and he refused to accept defeat and stop believing that that was his destiny, that that was meant for him. It is absolutely amazing. But again, I'm sure I'm butchering the story. You guys should really try to find the interview where Stallone actually tells his own story. It's so much more powerful because it was his, it's his life story. But yeah, it's very, very inspirational. And I had always really liked that movie, and I wasn't really sure why. But now I know why. Now I know why I like that movie so much. Because it is, he wrote into the script what was going on in his life. Every time you see Rocky in the ring, now that you know this story, every time he gets hit, it's like life is swinging on him, right? All of this bad stuff is happening. It's all of the talent agencies saying, no, you will never do this. You'll never make it in Hollywood. And it's just blow after blow after blow. And Rocky always gets back up. Always. It doesn't matter how many times he's knocked down, how many times they hit him in the face. He always gets back up. He refuses to give up. And that's what makes Rocky who he is. And that's why America loved that movie so much. Exactly. He had faith. Talk about being inspiring. Exactly. Did he know this person and know his dream? If you're talking about the guy who bought his dog, they know each other now, but prior to that, he hadn't. Thank you for the trumpets, Kelly. I appreciate it. Thank you, Rosie. Yeah, the movie, now that you guys have heard that story, I highly recommend you guys go back and watch the original Rocky movie. Even if you didn't really care for it the first time, it will mean so much more to you, and it's such a better movie after you hear that story. Oh, thank you, Rosie. That's very sweet. You're very welcome. Never cared for it. Yeah, I understand it. And that's most people, right? Like it's not for everybody. It's an old movie. It's a very low budget movie. They were so sure that that movie would tank and not make any money because Sylvester Stallone demanded to star in it. Not just have a role, but star in the movie. They were so certain it was going to tank and nobody would ever watch it that they did not invest hardly any money at all in making that movie. The vast majority of people who you see in that movie are extras off the street or no name actors or actresses who nobody had ever heard of before. Luckily, because of Sylvester Stallone's success, several of them went on to become quite famous in Hollywood because of that movie. Had no idea about Sylvester Stallone brings so much more to it. Exactly. And that's why I wanted to share it with you. The last one that I want to share with you guys, and I'm sure you guys have all heard this one before too, but since this is the day for manifestation, for doing these things right here, I'm going to share it with you anyway. Yes, Seeker, it wasn't a thing. Boxing movies was not a thing. Not really. They never really made any money. They weren't popular. And then Rocky came out, and then it became like the movie that defined a generation, essentially. Arguably, you could say that action movies weren't really a thing prior to that generation and that time period. And it's partially because of Sylvester Stallone, partially because of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that is actually the other story I want to talk to you guys about. Success builds confidence. I completely agree with you on that. So, the other story is the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm sure you guys have all heard of him, and most of you guys have heard me talk about this to some extent. His story, in my opinion, is perhaps the most powerful and the most profound, and I really did not expect that. I About 3 years ago, I read Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography, and I must admit, it was one of the best books I've ever read. I was completely blown away by that. I did not expect it. I knew that the man was successful. I knew he had achieved a lot in his life. But here's what I did not know. Arnold came from a very small village in Austria, a very small village. Not even a town, really. It was a town, but it was a very small town. And his father was a police officer, right? He grew up in Austria at a time where all of his, his parents, everyone he knew, his grown-up relatives, and all of their friends were coming down off losing World War II, right? Because this is Austria. There was the entire area had basically been destroyed. There wasn't hardly anything going on in that area. There was not any industry, not much of an economy to speak of. There was not really any future the way Arnold seen it growing up. In his own words, his future at that point was to grow up and marry a woman named Heidi and then go yodeling through the hills like the sound of music and raise children. That was his future. And he did not want that. And then one day in school, he came across a magazine, a bodybuilding magazine. and he started flipping through it and had some American bodybuilder in there, who became so famous because of his bodybuilding, that he got an acting role and got to play Hercules. And Arnold, young teenage Arnold at this point, was like, this is it. This is my ticket to America, to where I really belong. Not stuck here in Austria, yodeling through the hills with some woman named Heidi and 15 kids, but in America, where I can become famous, I can become rich, and then I can become an actor, right? This was his plan as a very young teenager. So he devoted himself to this idea. He was sure of it. He not only knew exactly what he wanted, he didn't just say, I want to be a bodybuilder. He said, I want to be the best bodybuilder in the world, the best that has ever lived. And then once I have achieved the pinnacle of the bodybuilding world, I want to move to America and I want to become an actor. But I don't want to just be an actor. I want to be the number one action movie star in history, right? You guys probably know how the story ends, but he once he had that goal, that destination, he charted his course, just like on the sailing ship, right? He knew exactly where he was going. He wasn't tossed about on the in the sea, whichever way life was tossing him and just rolling with the punches. He said, "No, I don't want that. I want to go there. I want to go to America. I want all of these things, right?" And so he became obsessed with bodybuilding. He studied everything he could about it. He got little odd jobs to earn money to be able to afford gym memberships and everything. And he worked up his entire way through. He became Mr. Austria. I can't remember the exact title there, and then won a title for like the best bodybuilder in Europe, and then competed with every part about his story. One part that has always stuck with me on that is because, unlike everybody else who wanted to be a bodybuilder with him, he was in a gym every day, surrounded by 20, 30 guys or more, all who were chasing the same thing, right? They all wanted to be a bodybuilder. But what set Arnold apart from everybody else is they would be over there for 8, 10 hours a day working out. They would be miserable the whole time. They suffered through every rep. It made them miserable. They couldn't stand it. And they were just mindlessly lifting iron plates and barbells, right? Arnold, for every single time he lifted a weight, he visualized himself getting one step closer to his goal. With every rep, it wasn't a, oh, woe is me, I have to do all of this. I have to lift all these weights for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. For him, it was, I'm now one step closer to being the best bodybuilder in the world and moving to America. And he visualized this every single rep that he did. And so he was excited about it every single time. And nobody else got it. Everybody was like, why you always got this dopey grin on your face? Why do you enjoy this so much? And that's why. Because he knew this was his ticket to America and his ticket to becoming famous. And so eventually, after he won these titles, somebody in America decided to sponsor him. They knew he was the future, and they were like, look, I want to move you to America. I want you to do some promotional videos and stuff for me, and I'll pay you to come work out at my gym and promote some stuff, right? So, without taking anything, any of his possessions, he moved to America with, I think, $78 in his pocket, to a land on the other side of the world, who speaks a language that he does not speak, where he knows nobody, right? Didn't even ask a question. He was just like, yep, that's where I'm going. So he took his $78 and flew to America. And the rest is history, right? I mean, he became the best bodybuilder in the world. He eventually landed an acting role, although there is a really amusing story about that too, because he was met with the same fate as Sylvester Stallone. The first several agencies that Arnold went into and said, I'd like to be an actor, they're like, get the heck out of here. Get the heck out of here. Nobody wants to see you. Like, what's wrong? I mean, you're so huge. Like, you're so swollen up, you can't even move right. You look like a big ape. Nobody wants to see that. Action movies weren't a thing at that time. And what action movies there were, the action hero was about 160, 170 pound, somewhat scrawny guy. That was the norm at that point. Nobody had ever seen anybody like Arnold. And plus, he had this really thick Austrian accent that nobody could hardly understand. In fact, a few people even told him, look, you sound like a Nazi. Nobody's going to want to see that in a movie. But he didn't take no for an answer. And he kept coming back and kept coming back. And eventually, he landed a couple of roles, and he got to play the big breakaway role for him was by playing the Terminator. And it's really amusing because in his book, he highlights how all of the things that all of them told him. Look, you look like a machine. You're so big and bulky, no one's ever going to want to see anything like that. When you talk, you sound like a robot, like some robot Nazi or something. Nobody's going to want to listen to that. And they told him because of those things that made him so different, no one would ever want to watch him. And then he was cast to play the Terminator. And James Cameron said, it's a great thing that Arnold Schwarzenegger exists because if we did not have him to play the role of the Terminator, we would have had to make one because he played it so well. He looked like a robot, like a giant muscled robot. He even spoke and moved like a robot. And the very things that they said kept him from being a successful actor and would prevent him from ever making it was the very things that made Arnold famous, made him successful, because he was so big and bulky, because he was awkward and moved like a robot, because he had this thick Austrian accent that nobody could understand. If he looked like everyone else and sounded like everyone else, do you really think he would have ever been as successful? I don't. But obviously, Arnold didn't give up, right? He continued chasing his dream, and even far beyond that. In fact, he reached his goals that he had set so quickly that he had to sit down and say, well, what am I going to do now? Because he didn't think it would ever happen that quick, because he didn't just say, I want to be a bodybuilder. He said, I want to be the best bodybuilder who has ever lived. And he didn't just say, I want to act in a movie. He said, I want to be the number one leading male actor in the world. I want to be the number one movie star. And then he achieved both of those really quickly. And then he was like, so what do I do now? And then he decided to go into politics. And he actually held the highest position of office that he can hold since he was not born in the United States, and run the state of California as governor, which is actually the fifth largest economy in the world. So he achieved a lot in his life. Great life plan. Go after to be the best, bar none. And Rosie, that's what's really stuck with me, listening to him speak in his autobiography. That's, in fact, his number one rule. He condenses all of his life lessons and everything that he learned in his life into a series of rules for success. And his number one rule is whenever you're choosing what you want, setting your destination, aim high. Don't set the bar low. Set it so inconceivably high that it would blow your mind if you achieved it. And then never look back. Just keep aiming up. Keep aiming for that impossibly high goal. And then what happens if you don't achieve it? If you're aiming at the stars and you don't quite get to that high of a bar, then you're still miles above where you would have been. Miles above the people who don't even set a goal, who are tossed about by the seas of life, right? Yeah, and he married a Kennedy, and he did mess that one up. That was, he said, his one regret in life. And I do apologize, guys. I probably completely missed a ton of comments in here. Now I see that Kelly said Conan the Barbarian. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot to mention that one. That really was his breakout role, even before the other ones. That was the one that put him on the map, and then he went on to make a series of really huge movies. But that one is the one that I'm pretty sure in his book that he attributes to being the one that actually put him on the map. And again, at that time, before you had ever seen anybody like Arnold, right, in movies, can you imagine anybody else playing Conan the Barbarian? Could you imagine one of the traditional male actors at that time trying to play Conan the Barbarian? It would have been ridiculous. It would have been absurd. They would have been walking around with like, you know, styrofoam stuff under their shirts and stuff, trying to act like they were Conan the Barbarian. But Arnold just had to walk on set, grow his hair out a little bit, and carry a sword. That was it. He was made for the role. They told Clint Eastwood his Adam's apple was too large. There are so many stories like that are just as powerful as the three that I've talked about, or more so. But those are three of my favorite to talk about. And I know that they're all actors. That's not to say that has to be your thing, right? But I use those because they're so powerful. All three of those very successful people came from nothing, not generational wealth. They didn't have a bunch of help, pretty much had no help whatsoever. And all three of them, at some point along their path, reached rock bottom to where it looked like they would have no choice but to give up. And that was the moment whenever they said, I'm not going to give up. And it's almost like the universe seeing, no matter what we throw at this person, they're never going to give up. So we might as well just get out of their way and let them have what they want. Because the moment that they all three reached rock bottom and didn't give up is when they took off. And there is a concept in spirituality that I don't know if you guys are familiar with or if you've heard about this, but you've probably heard it said a lot. It's always darkest before the dawn. I believe that, and I think there's a really powerful reason for that. You've probably all experienced a period in your life where it feels like you're going backwards, or like a ton of negative stuff is just happening. Nothing seems to be going right. Sometimes when that happens, it's almost like you're setting in a slingshot, and the universe is pulling you backwards, getting ready to rocket you into the future, rocket you into your destination. So keep that in mind sometimes. Whenever it feels like you're going backwards, whenever it feels like you are at the deepest depths of rock bottom, sometimes even lower than rock bottom, right? I really think that spark of belief and faith is all of the difference in the world. It's like once you're drugged to that point, if that's still there, then boom, you are launched into the direction of your goal, your destination that you've charted. I remember his first photo shoot on Sports Illustrated. Yeah, there wasn't anybody really that anyone had ever seen that was like Arnold up until that point. Definitely fit the part. Oh, Time to Thrive, you missed the first two. Um, okay, well, I do apologize. I'm far too cold to go back and tell those stories all over again. But it was a story of Jim Carrey and how he became a successful actor, and then the same thing with Sylvester Stallone. And both of those stories are tremendous. If you do not know their stories or have not heard them, please look them up. And actually, I'm going to download this live and then upload it to my YouTube channel for anyone who wants to go back and watch it. I mean, yes, but he is not the best actor. He is a great at manifestation and persistent. I agree with you. I certainly would not say that Arnold Schwarzenegger is the best actor ever. And that really wasn't his goal. His goal was to be the number one action star or whatever, and that's what he was. And what was really amusing is actually um, for decades, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone faced off with each other, vying for that spot of number one action superstar in Hollywood. And so, for every time that one actor, like say Arnold, would release a movie called Commando, then Sylvester Stallone would go and make a movie, and it would, what was the Commando? Rambo, right? Yeah, Rambo and Commando. They just kept going back and forth. And the rivalry between those two, fighting for their dreams, is what created the entire genre of action movies. That's what made action movies a thing. Um, that's what made the 80s what it was. And even before that. But really, it started picking up in the 80s and 90s. But you certainly cannot disagree with the fact that he was hugely successful. I know, Melanie. I know you're living it right now, and that is part of the reason why I'm talking about this. Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate it. So, Time to Thrive. You do know the story about Sylvester Stallone and writing the Rocky movie script. Um, it's huge. Yes, Rosie, I do have a YouTube channel. This is my main channel here on TikTok. The YouTube mainly is just some of my older videos that I've done, and I've recently started uploading the live replays on YouTube in case somebody misses the live and they want to go back and watch it. Arlena says, not everyone has a goal to become famous or even rich. My goal would to be an even better human. Exactly, Arlena. I totally get that, and I'm the same way. I have no desire to be famous. I have no desire to be a number one movie star or be an actor, period. I don't like attention. I don't like the limelight. I would not be able to stomach being famous one bit. But I use their stories because they very powerfully used manifestation to achieve very high ranking goals. Not just, I want to be successful or I want to, you know, whatever it is. They set the bar so high that it is still mind blowing to consider what they really achieved, considering that they came from nothing. Pretty much all of them were at the point that they were starving to death, and then they went from that to be some of the most successful people to ever walk the face of the earth. But again, that depends on your version of success, right? And that's the beauty of this. We don't want the same things. None of us do. We all desire different things. Even for somebody who wants something very similar to you, their frequency is different than yours. And so you are going to be manifesting something slightly different than that person. Love Commando. Hey, Rudolph maybe should get back in your truck. Is it that red? It's surely not that red. We can deal with the live freezing better than you freezing. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I have no desire to be a movie star, but man, I'd like to be rich. So here is my thing with money, and I've said this I think once before on a live. I have no desire to be the traditional sense of rich, what you think of as being rich, in that I don't worship money. I don't like. I know it is not the end all be all, right? To me, money is a tool, and what money would mean to me if I had enough of it is time. Because right now I am in a situation where I'm trading my time for money. Money is not the true currency in our society. Time is the true currency. We trade our life one moment at a time for everything, for all of the possessions in your house, for the food that you eat, for the movie that you go and watch, for everything that you have to spend money on. You're trading your time for that. You can always make more money, right? It's a little bit more difficult to make more time. So everything should be measured by its true currency, in my opinion. And that currency is time. And so, what being rich would mean to me would mean I would have freedom. I would have more time. I would not have to trade my life for the ability to provide for my family. I would have the ability to do the things I want to do in life, right? And for me personally, because I'm a nerd, it would be to read all of the books and travel and, live in the woods and raise my 1,300 children, that sort of thing. It would be to experience life. That's what money means to me. So, yes, I guess you could say I do want to be rich, but I don't have any desire to be like, I've got 15 cars, I got a Bugatti and 7 houses and a summer home and every continent and all this. I have no desire for anything like that. I just want to be in a situation to where I can live life without having to trade my life for the right to live. And I'm sure many of you guys can relate to that. I know all about coming from nothing. You are not the only one, Arlena. You are not the only one, my friend. Yes, Madonna and Oprah's story is huge. She's another one that 100% used manifestation to make herself huge, absolutely huge, perhaps bigger than any of the other ones. And Jesus fed the masses, exactly. I live a minimalist lifestyle, but money is power. Yeah, exactly. Time to thrive. I feel that. That's one of those things for sure. Arlena just had a deja vu, or maybe you said that before. I honestly don't remember ever saying that before on my live. Um, it's definitely something I would say, but I'm almost wondering if you just if that's just pure on deja vu, because I don't think I said that on the live before. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate that. Absolutely agree on being able to live without having to trade my time. Exactly. That's my goal. That's where I'm headed, and that is my curriculum for tonight. And I hope that you guys plan on spending some of your time tonight working on the energies that surround us right now. With this manifestation portal open on 12/12, the numerology is huge. It's coinciding exactly with the new moon in Sagittarius, which is a lot of fiery energy geared towards aiming high, right? And manifesting. And there is an alignment between the Earth, the Sun, and the center of the galaxy that creates essentially the Star of David. And this alignment has the potential to propel us to a state where we can bridge the gap between the third dimension and the 5D, between the old earth and the new earth. The plans that we set into place right now have a very strong chance to be coming to fruition in the next 6 months because of these energies that we're working with. But as always, the absolute key to that is knowing your destination and then having faith, having belief that it is for you, that the universe is conspiring in your favor, and that nothing will keep you from that. And I firmly believe that if we can do those things, it will be ours. Christy said, I had a final job interview tomorrow. More money, better position. Awesome, Christy. I hope that works out for you. I'm sure that it will, my friend. I've been feeling some kind of crazy energy. I don't doubt that one bit, Rosie. The energy is off the charts. It is very potent energy right now, especially with all of these, the alignments, the numerology, the everything, all of the galactic alignments, the numerology alignments, the portals opening with the new moon. And new moon is always about new cycles, right? It's always about beginning something new, manifesting your desires. And so all of those things lining up all at this time, it's just pivotal. Did you hear there's a massive hole in the sun now? That is a coronal hole. And it's not actually a hole, it is a space on the corona, the surface of the sun, that is electromagnetically different, to where it is constantly essentially spraying out charged particles from that area because of the electromagnetic interplay on the corona of the sun. That is not something unusual, by the way. There are coronal holes all of the time on the sun, pretty much constantly. The thing that is different, because we're in solar maximum right now, that involves electromagnetic flip and polarity of the sun. Whenever that happens, there's more and more sunspots, more coronal holes, and bigger coronal holes. Those are usually found either north or south of the equator of the sun. But this last one that was pointed at the Earth was massive, and it was a center on the equator, which is abnormal. But as far as coronal hole, my friend, those are pretty common. Feeling lots of positive energy. That's the main reason I wanted to talk about these things tonight, and then share these stories to hype everybody up, including myself, so that we can go out and manifest our futures. Yeah, I'm an empath. Coronal anomaly. Hello, is that the Rain Bestie? I don't know if I said that correctly or not, but hello, my friend. Yep, could be flipping anytime. Well, thank you, Noel. I appreciate that. On that note, guys, I'm probably going to go ahead and end this live, since I'm beginning to look like Rudolph again. But I'm glad that I got to talk with you guys and share these fantastic stories. And I know that someday my story will be up there. Some that other people talk about. Maybe not because I'm famous or whatever, but I know once I achieve what I want to achieve, I'm going to be writing a book about it. And hopefully someday that story will be told to inspire others of the things that they are capable of doing as well. And I hope the same for each and every one of you guys. And this portal right now, this energy has the very real possibility of rocketing us into that direction and changing the very nature of our life and existence in the next 6 months. You're very welcome, Quasar. I appreciate that. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate the trumpets. Blessings and love to you. Thank you, Roxy. That's so awesome. You guys are so awesome. Thank you, Noel. You guys are too awesome to me. Thank you so much. I do really hope that you guys take a moment tonight. Oh, thank you, Rosie. Please, you owe this to yourself to sit down tonight, to take a little bit of time, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, and dare to dream. Dare to dream. If money was out of the equation, right? If you were, if you woke up tomorrow and you had so much money it wasn't even a thing, you could do whatever you wanted to do, what would that be? What would your life look like? The more specific you can get about that, the more precisely you can pin your destination on the map, and the more powerfully and emotionally you can vibrate with the energy of that destination, the closer you are pulling it to yourself. If you can just take a few moments with that and feel that, get into the energy of it, and then declare your intention to the universe that that is your destination, that is where you're going, that is where you're headed, and know that you will get there. Then all you have to do really is just get out of your own way. Don't worry about how it could possibly happen. Don't ask the questions of doubt. Don't even think about it. You know, if you have to write yourself a check and carry it around in your wallet like Jim Carrey, then do that. Do whatever it takes. Helping others would be my goal. I love that. Tiny cabin in the forest with my family surrounding me. I love that. So anyway, just one little last burst of inspiration, I guess. I personally plan on doing those things tonight, and I hope that you guys do too. Um, I'm rooting for you. I know that you guys can do it. Thank you all for being here and for sticking with me, even through all of the tech issues and the live freezing and not being able to see or hear me. I know that that sucks. I know that most people have no intention to watch a live that's having issues like that. So I do appreciate you guys for sticking around to the end. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Beth. I hope you all have a fantastic night of manifesting your dreams and your desires. I love each and every one of you, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again tomorrow night. Have a good night.